Hello and welcome to LGBTQ Support Networks news review of the week. As part of the work that I'm going to be doing on the network, I think it's important to look at news globally for the LGBTQ community and kind of offer some opinion and thoughts on that. So the first story everyone's been talking about this week obviously is Caitlyn Jenner, her coming out on the Vanity Fair cover and what that meant for the trans community. There's two sides to the debate. There's a debate that it's fantastic, she's a spokesperson for the trans community and hopefully is going to be giving others to come out and courage to be themselves. And then the flip side of that is she's received a lot of criticism for pandering to gender heteronormative ideas of what femininity is. I kind of feel sorry for her, because at the end of the day, she comes from a very different era than kind of the people who are given a lot of criticism come from. Ultimately, you know, she grew up, she's 65, and you know, this is a woman who was a professional athlete. You know, she won a gold medal at the Olympics in 1976. You know, she was the world champion. She was a decathlete, and you know, to go to such an extreme to be something that you're not, I think the fact that she's gone down such a kind of feminine idea of what a female is, you have to look at what she was and what she's become. I think is the complete opposite of that, you know. And you know, if her idea of what a woman is to be that feminine, who are we to judge that? I say go Caitlyn. I think you're bloody amazing, and like to do something so kind of deep in the public eye, I think fair play to her. She's amazing. So that's all we've got to say on that. And it's been a kind of a campaign for her to be stripped of her gold medals. I mean, really, come on, guys. You know, she was a different person then, and she won gold and she was champion of the world in her specific sport as a different person. And you know, she still had her demons, and you know, anyone who's watched the interview will see that she really struggled with that. We say fair play to her. Go Jenner. There's no criticism coming from this network. Okay, the next story I want to look at, when it loads up on my iPad, sorry, I'm having a few issues, is okay, anyone who is lives in the UK will be aware how explosive UKIP can be, the UK Independence Party. There was a general election recently here in the UK, and you know, they won one MP, but you know, they're famous for putting their foot in it when it comes to the LGBTQ community, and they said that one MP famously came out and said it, or one of their party members came out and said that gay marriage was responsible for the storms. Utter rubbish. But there's been talks for them to be banned from marching in Pride in London, I say. And it's this network's opinion to say that they should be allowed to march with the LGBTQ community. I think if you want understanding from any element of society, you have to be prepared to open your arms and to have them be a part of you. Communicate with them, be open with them, be friendly with them. Ultimately, in being open and friendly, we're going to be understood better. So if we can help change a political party's view of our society by including them, then it's far better to include them and exclude them, because it's kind of, I don't know, perpetuating the differences between the two. So I say include them. Okay, the next story I want to look at is an Australian. It's really funny from Australia. This woman in Melbourne has written to a newspaper, and she said, when I was a kid at school, we were taught about the birds and the bees, not the birds and the birds, and the bees and the bees. Just saying. I think that's really funny. It's all about the equal marriage debate. There's been calls for there to be one in Australia, and I think the leader of the opposition party this week has also tabled a bill to have the same-sex marriage discussed in Parliament. I think it's fantastic, but it's really funny how some people were like mocking her. I think ultimately a political commentator in Australia this week said the country should not follow Ireland's lead on same-sex marriage. They said, I love the Irish, but these are people who can't grow potatoes. Whoa. But I just think that, you know, it's wonderful that the Leader of Opposition has actually tabled the motion to have the thing discussed in Parliament. You know, it's not about what I think what is wrong is not being able to marry the person that you love. If you love someone, you should be able to marry them. It's as simple as that. As long as it's morally right, obviously, and it's legal. You know, you shouldn't be marrying your family and stuff. That's just a bit weird. Okay. On the back of the Vanity Fair cover and the debate about how it was wrong for the trans community because it was painting this picture of the heteronormative kind of ideas of what trans people should be. There's a lot of people using the Vanity Fair and they're saying call me and then they put in their name, and if they've hashtagged it with my Vanity Fair cover. I think it started on Tumblr, and a lot of people have been uploading their Vanity Fair covers onto social media. That's fantastic. Well done. I think it's really, really good that you guys are actually getting out there and putting across that, you know, the gender heteronormative ideas of what gender is are being challenged. Fair play. I think it's wonderful. And if Caitlyn Jenner doing this is actually opening the world's eyes to what being trans is all about, brilliant. Is that kind of in looking at it, it's why she's done it anyway. So fair play. Okay. Anyone in the UK will know a newspaper called the Daily Mail. Essentially, it's kind of a quite they have been known to kind of cause a few shockwaves in the LGBTQ community with some of the comments and the stories that they run. One of the columnists actually is a guy called Richard Littlejohn. He actually came out this week and said if LGBT people are a family, he's a Nigerian lesbian. He obviously hasn't looked in the mirror lately. He's actually come out and said, did no one at any stage think about what might be in the best interest of the child? The lesbians were busy exercising their right to have a baby by artificial insemination. And he's saying, also went on, what about their responsibilities towards this child that they were talking about? And where the social services and all of this, celebrating diversity probably. Richard Littlejohn, I challenge you to say that any child brought up in a loving, supporting, caring family is in fact a child that's being brought up the right way. And families, you know, aren't necessarily male and female and children. Families can be any mix of those. I think ultimately what's more important is a child's brought up in a home that's loved, cared for, and more importantly wants them. There are so many kids out there that, like, you know, people didn't want and stuff. I just think what I found in gay relationships and the gay relationships that I know of that have kids, it's like those are kids that are like so loved and so wanted, that to kind of come out and say that LGBT people aren't representative of what a family is, utter rubbish. You're just wrong, Little John, and that's what I'm going to say. Okay. Everyone who's watching this have probably heard of Patrick Stewart. He was the guy who played Jean-Luc Picard in the Next Generation Star Trek, as X-Men and other stuff. He's actually come out and supported the gay cake bakery, who was famous, and they refused to make a wedding cake for a gay couple. I think that at this stage he's received a lot of criticism coming out for them. He's saying that it wasn't because the gay couple that they objected to. It's not because they were celebrating some sort of marriage or an agreement. It was the actual words on the cake that they objected to because they found the words offensive. He said he would support their right to say no. It's personally offensive to my beliefs. I will not do it. But I feel bad that it cost them £600 or whatever. Honestly, I think that he's entitled to his opinion, and there's actually been some calls on social media saying that he's not supportive of the LGBTQ community. What a load of tosh. People, he's entitled to his opinion, and if someone finds the words on a cake offensive, who are we to say that they should be kind of chastised for it? That's just my opinion. I'm entitled to it. Okay, the next one I want to look at is the story in Morocco. Topless activists have been kicked out of Morocco for gay kissing at an ancient mosque. They were French activists who kissed outside a mosque. They staged a same-sex kiss at the site of an ancient mosque, and they were exported from Morocco. I understand why they did it. And Morocco is a country who has recently been in the news because they imprisoned gay men over there for the act of homosexuality. I think that I understand why they did it, and they did it to be provocative and to get gay rights in the news and it. But I also kind of think that if we want respect, we have to give respect. And they didn't have to necessarily be topless. That's just my opinion. They could have done it and kept their clothes on, and it would have been as valid a statement. But it's bringing LGBTQ issues to the kind of fore in Morocco as well. So I think I understand why they did it, and fair play to them. But it's this network runner's opinion that they could have done it with a bit more kind of sensitivity. In Ireland this week, they've they're looking at a law that will give you can have a gender marker without having to have confirmation that you're seeking gender reassignment. I think that's a massive step. Very recently in Ireland, obviously they've had the same-sex marriage bill that's go through, and that's going to be legal. I think that's another step towards equality, and way to go, Ireland. That's all I can say. Okay, the Pride organisers in South Korea have recently come up against criticism, and it's being banned, but the organisers vowed to march regardless. I think that's amazing that they're actually vowing to march, and fair play to them. It must be really, anywhere in the world where anyone goes to a Pride march, it's a political statement. You're saying to the world, I am either a supporter or a part of this community, and I'm proud of it. So I think that, whilst it's really difficult for them, I think it's amazing that they're still going to go out and march anyway, so fair play to them. And the last one I want to sign off with is there's been billboards in the Ukraine that have been urging people to use the word gay instead of faggot. All these billboards have been asking people to address LGBTQ issues correctly and use the correct phraseology. There was one that had the word gays. There's one that had the word faggots and had the crossed out, and it had gay. There was another one that had the words AIDS-ridden, and it said to replace that word with HIV infected. So there's been a furor and a backlash in the Russian media, and they've been saying stuff like, in the Ukraine, a scandalous agitation for age marriage has begun, and also that the Ukraine is choking under European values. I say, way to go, Ukraine. It's showing people that that we're all, you cut us all, we're all the same underneath. I think that people have a right to be who they are. That's it. Thanks for watching this week's LGBTQ Support Network newsreel, and I will look forward to rounding off the LGBTQ news next week. Take care. Bye.